Post-season trail camera tactics. We use trail cameras year-round, not just during deer season. There are many things you can do, I can do, we can do as deer hunters to benefit from trail cameras during the off-season and set you up for more success and better success next year. First, you need to make sure you're putting your trail cameras where deer are during the postseason. And you need to make sure you're focusing on bedding areas, food sources, and water sources. Bedding areas need to be fairly unpressured, if not pressured at all. Good, thick, nasty, impenetrable cover is obviously going to be good quality bedding, but you also want to focus on things that benefit deer during the late season, such as good quality solar cover, which is going to come in the form of a south or southeastern facing slope. It gets the most sunlight during the day, as well as the first sunlight. It's also important to focus on thermal cover, which is going to come in the form of coniferous trees, evergreens, such as cedar, spruce, pine. These help hold heat closer to the ground. It can be, sometimes 1, 2, 3 degrees warmer in those areas than outside of those areas. It also shields deer from rain, sleet, snow, and wind. It's just altogether better quality bedding cover. When you're looking at food sources, you want to make sure you're finding whatever is available. At this time of year, food sources are dwindling. If you're in ag country, you want to focus on, cut corn, standing beans. If you've got food plots in the ground, such as brassicas, turnips, radishes, other options include wheat, oats, clover if you have some left over. There's lots of options there as far as food plots go. But deer are primarily browse animals. It doesn't matter where you go, deer primarily eat browse when it comes to this time of year. So you want to focus on woody browse, twigs, leaves, buds on trees, that are low enough for deer to get. Just general browse is really their primary food source this time of year. So anywhere that there's good quality early successional cover that has a lot of that browse available to deer, that's a low-lying, low-level area for them to reach, that's going to be key and very beneficial for a postseason trail camera plan. When it comes to late season water sources, it's hard to congregate deer in front of a camera with a large body of water, such as lakes, rivers, and things of that nature. You want to find something that's smaller, more confined, something that kind of pinches them down. You also want to think about places that you're going to see deer in daylight, because you're going to get better photos. That way it doesn't matter exactly where you're seeing those deer in daylight as far as a hunting purpose, because it's post-season. But these deer are probably doing something very similar to what they did during the late season. So, you can take that information and use it next year when it comes to late season deer hunting. Because oftentimes whatever they're doing right now just after deer season ends, they were doing right before deer season ended. So you can use that for later information. So you want to put trail cameras not in bedding areas, but put them close to areas you think you might see deer during daylight. Obviously, you're trying to condense deer down in front of a trail camera. That's difficult sometimes. So you've got to think about where you can pinch deer down at, just like you would if you're trying to find a good stand location. So finding pinch points, saddles, funnels, anything that condenses deer down, finding where trails intersect, all of these places and more are solid places to put your postseason cameras. Aside from knowing where your bedding areas, food sources, and water sources are located, there are certain tips and tactics you should use and implement to increase success. One of those is just relying on past knowledge. If you've hunted a property in the past, you kind of know what they do throughout time and throughout history and throughout the year. So you can take that past knowledge to apply to right now. And so that can kind of give you a leg up when trying to figure out where to place your trail cameras. Next, make sure when you're placing your cameras, if at all possible, you put them back off of trails. You don't want it to be very, up close and in their face, so to speak. Deer are very pressured, very timid at this point, so you don't want to put it right there in front of them. Back them off just a little bit, keep them within their range, but, keep them a little bit more concealed, and use whatever method you can to actually conceal those cameras from deer, such as placing them up high, angling them down, maybe put a little bit of brush around them, but not too much to get in the way of the camera lens, things of that nature. Another thing to remember is not to put your cameras pointing south if possible. The sun is going to stay from southeast to southwest this time of year, so pointing them in different directions is going to help you get better quality photos. Also, put new batteries in your trail cameras. This is going to be very beneficial because, cold weather saps battery life, especially if you're using alkaline batteries. You can use lithium batteries to get better longevity out of your cameras this time of year, so long as your camera model is compatible with those, because the lithium batteries will not be as susceptible to cold weather, not as impacted by the late season temperatures or even post-season temperatures for that matter. Next, deer are going to be just as susceptible to human intrusion during the postseason as they are during the season. So, you know, they can't tell when opening day and closing day is. So you want to do as much as you can to stay off their radar. Using scent spray to reduce the amount of scent on the cameras left behind is a great tactic. Another thing you can do is use cellular cameras. These, where legal, are going to be great ways to reduce the amount of impact you put on that local herd because you're not going to have to put as much pressure on them. Now, that being said, it has to be a type of cellular camera that has long battery life, and a lot of them do not. So if you're having to go in once a week to change batteries, that is not going to reduce impact. That's going to increase impact. You would be better off to use a non-cellular camera and, you know, just check it, you know, in summer or at the end of spring whenever you're done taking your postseason trail camera survey. And finally, as you can see, the sun is setting back here behind me. You know, the sun is set on a long deer season, and you're doing your postseason survey now. You put those cameras out for a long time and you can forget where they're at. So it's very, very important that you mark those camera locations on HuntStand. That way you can use your HuntStand Pro subscription to keep track of where those cameras are, where they're located, and where you can go to find them after your postseason trail camera survey is done, or no matter when you put them out, whether it's the postseason or in season. But use HuntStand to mark your trail camera locations. You're going to be much better off whenever you're trying to go back and find those locations and find those cameras once it's all said and done.